The City of Buffalo is conducting its first wide-scale reassessment in years. Mayor Byron Brown and staff met with the Buffalo News editorial board to discuss the process.
For giving us the opportunity to talk about the city's revaluation process, which is a very important process. You've met Jason Schell, our Commissioner of Assessment and Taxation, Brian Sullivan, our Deputy Commissioner of Assessment and Taxation. Joseph Eminger is he is the principal of the contracting firm that the city is using for this process. You know, Mike DeGeorge. Also with us is Aaron Fallon in our communications department, who will be working to make sure information is getting out into the community. And Karan Barnes is our Director of Urban Affairs. He will be working with assessment and taxation and getting to different neighborhoods across the city, helping to answer resident questions, and also working with council members that want to schedule meetings with their residents to talk about the revaluation process. Property owners should also keep in mind that a change in assessment does not necessarily mean a change in their tax bill. Roughly a third of real estate value in the city will go up, a third will go down, and a third will stay the same.
So the price per thousand is actually the tax rate. Mm-hmm. And the tax rate for next year we won't have until we actually have an adopted budget and a levy. So the disclosure notices went out right now are based on this year's budget, and it's if they were going to be enacted today, this is what your assessment was, this is what it would be, and this is what the proposed tax rate you would be paying. So it shows a difference.
But clearly tax rates will go down.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can't say how much, but obviously it's dependent. You know,
yes,
we have just a couple more points.
And you know, the tax bill is tax rate times assessment equals your tax bill. So the rate will go down dramatically.
Do I understand though that the city's not assessed on 100% of market value?
Correct.
What, is there a reason for that? It seems like it's much easier to understand your assessment if it's 100%.
It is, and it would be. And so essentially, like we said, since the project had a beginning and an end, the city's increased value since the end of this project as far as the valuation portion of it. You know, we looked back the cost of capturing that remaining data. The market just hadn't stopped, so it wasn't you know, a good return on our investment. Through future years and through future plans, those types of you know, disparities will be captured.
Can you share with Kevin what the percentage is now, though?
The percentage right now is 90%. We're using that. It's yet to be confirmed by New York State Office of Real Property Tax Services, but in you know, unison with them, conversation, sharing our data, we're both comfortable with that number. And like I said, through future years, as the market continues to increase, it's our intentions to keep it at this.
So unless I misunderstood it, we had a story the other day that said, I thought it said 60 some odd percent, but maybe that's the old value.
The current, because this will be effective July 1st.
Got it. So the old one was 64%, you're up to 90 now.
Yeah.
And you're hoping to get up to 100, is that what I heard you say?
Eventually. Yeah, like the statement you made, the closer you are to 100, the less confusion it is, people understand. Obviously, the lower we get, the more inequities we have. So that's what this is all about, is establishing a redistribution of equity throughout the tax roll.
So the answer to your question about challenges, we think this will make us more successful against those challenges because of the accuracy of this process.
Accurate, more accurate.
Yeah.
Okay.
The comparisons of this project is what it is. The total value of the city is up 63%. 10.7 billion to 17.4. The taxable assessed value is what the mayor was quoting earlier, and that's what really goes into figuring out the tax rate. Increased 84% from 6.68 billion to 12.3. Those are alarming numbers, in the sense that, you know, values
in a good way.
In a good way, because values are going up, and because of that, The levy for comparison of this stays the same. So what does that do? It's an equation. Tax levy divided by taxable assessed value equals tax rate. So as that total value goes up, taxable assessed value goes up, the levy stays the same. For comparisons of these disclosure notices, it drives the rate down. So when people see their values on it, it's driving the rate down to figuratively around $10.83. $10.84.
What role would the 2% cap on, yearly increases, how will that protect homeowners?
So the role that the 2% cap plays is that it is a 2% cap on the overall city tax levy. So what it will do is create a reduction of the tax rate. And if you all recall, before the state ever imposed a 2% tax cap, we started cutting the tax rate in the city of Buffalo. So the cap now will cause us to do what we would have done anyway, because we want to make sure that the city is affordable. So that would be our process for a balance to cut so as values go up all across the city, our process would be to cut the tax rate. The 2% tax cap forces us to do it and stay within that range.
So because of that 2% tax cap, is it fair to say that no one should get more than 5% tax increase?
No, I'm sorry.
No, go on. No, that's true.
No. Different level, it all depends. If your assessment goes up, if you're in one of those districts that went up higher, your taxes are going to go up higher, which is just fair. It doesn't get down to
It's not the individual, that 2% tax cap isn't for individual properties.
Right.
But the tax cap is the friend of the property owner, quite frankly. Okay, they should be embracing the tax cap because it does mitigate any increases that may be going into effect. Because we can't, the municipality can't go over that 2%.
So is there concern that there are some neighborhoods that have gone up significantly and you've got a poorer population there and their ability to pay the increased taxes? Because there are neighborhoods like that that we've seen kind of turn around in the last few years.
There are
Go on.
There are areas in the city, that obviously have seen greater growth and continue to see that. If Brian, if you want to talk about the transition, we call them transition areas.
So there's a few neighborhoods that we would classify as in transition. In other words, we're not exactly sure what strata they're ultimately going to be at. We have valid sales that may be at $40,000 or $50,000. In the same neighborhood, we may have valid sales that are $250,000 to $300,000. So we looked at that, reviewed the sales and the sales activity. We kind of labeled them internally transition neighborhoods because we want to keep an eye on it. We intend to do some type of annual reevaluation where we'll go in and modify areas that seem out of balance or where they should be. Sometimes the neighborhood should be redefined a little bit or highlighted a little bit more, but we'll keep track of those. We try to hit kind of a midline of value where possible, but you do have to realize it's sales that drive the value in residential valuation. So to the best of our ability, we tried to kind of be even tempered at the view of those so that they weren't hit right up to the very top level of what the sales were indicating. We tried to midline them as much as possible and then keep an eye on them going forward.
And in that discussion is, when you talk about seniors and those ability to pay, that's what brings in the exemptions, but it also brings in the process. Some of these homes, majority of these homes that are competing in these neighborhoods where you see the higher level are flip houses, excellent condition. Some of these other houses aren't as, the exterior, the interior aren't as up to speed, up to par, if you will. So that when you see the averages, these are averages, highs and lows in every single one of these districts. But that's why we encourage people to make sure that they're eligible or they're taking advantage of every exemption they have, whether it be low to moderate income, senior citizen, enhanced star, all of those benefit those types of individuals. Not only that, but also take advantage of the informal review process and ultimately the bar, if they choose, But that's where they bring that up and say, yeah, I realize that this guy down the street just sold his property for $205,000. But little old me has not changed my kitchen since 1942, and I still have carpet from 1950. Those types of evidence, those types of documentation brought to these informal review sessions will result in having a more fairly assessed value.
But Warren, to your point, we don't believe in any neighborhood anybody should be priced out or pushed out of their property. So Jason mentioned the assessment, mentioned the rebates and all of the exemptions. We run active programs to make sure that people in those neighborhoods who are eligible for them are taking advantage of the exemptions that they're eligible for. We will have people in neighborhoods. We'll have people at block club meetings. We'll be working with city council members. That will be part of the work that Karan Barnes will be doing to make sure that people are able to take advantage of these exemptions that they are eligible for. The other thing that we do, and you all have covered this in the past, is we help people create payment plans for property taxes. So we literally empty out just about every lawyer in City Hall, and we work with the Urban League, we work with Legal Aid to help people who are having a problem paying their tax bill get a payment plan so that they don't lose their property. We do not want to see anyone lose a property in the city of Buffalo, which is why we work so hard at these processes.
Would you be able to raise the overall tax receipts?
Would I be able to raise the overall tax bill?
You have that
Sure.
ability?
I mean, there's the 2%. I could.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, I could.
Do you see yourself doing that, or see yourself requesting that of the common council, or presenting that to them?
You know, that's more of a question for the next budget. We haven't begun to do that budget planning yet. I'm sure that this process is going to result in some slight increase in the overall tax revenue that comes into the city of Buffalo. But where that's going to be, we don't have a clue at this point because we haven't done the budget planning. And what we want to look at doing is, use resources at our disposal to minimize, the most negative impacts of any potential tax increase.
Mayor, did I hear you say that the revaluation itself is liable to increase tax revenues?
Yeah, it certainly could.
Because I thought the theory what you told us before is you're going to lower the tax rate, so basically it stays the same. So the levy stays the same.
Well, again, remember the levy with the 2% cap can go up by that 2%, and then the way it works is depending on whatever percentage you took the year before, you can add that percent to the 2%. So if you didn't take the 2% last year, it could be 4%. That's not what I'm saying.
I think it's very accurate. So the valuation in itself is revenue neutral, but the mayor does have the ability to increase the tax levy.
Right,
The
which
amount of
you would
money
have
raised
regardless
for
of the
taxes.
valuation.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is the
Revenue neutral.
This is a pie, so
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's
redistributing the size of the pie, what you're liable for.
So, go ahead, sorry.
I'm just going to give you the one thing that I always mention at the public meetings, okay? And, this project is a valuation project. Having said that, it's a taxation project too. Everybody realizes that, okay? When you get to, and I made this point basically at every meeting that I had, okay? The tax rate for the city of Buffalo, okay, is what the services that they provide is so much lower than any other municipality in Western New York. I mean, you go to any community and you'll see for the services that the city is providing, it's lower. So the city residents, yet there's some people's taxes may be increasing, but the bang for the buck, in my opinion, the bang for the buck is still better than anybody in any other community, which is, I think, a reason why the city has seen growth in every neighborhood. You're just not seeing growth in one section of the city. You're seeing growth in every district. And I think, it's starting to move out, and you're going to see the first ring suburbs probably see some of that. As Buffalo benefits, so does Western New York. Okay, so the first ring suburbs probably benefit more than maybe some of the outlying suburbs. And so the people, I believe, will be staying in the city of Buffalo if their taxes go up a little bit, simply because they like the bang they're getting for the buck on their tax dollars.
So, Mary, you said we wouldn't be waiting that long, but is there a specific plan every 4 years, every 5 years, every something to keep these under control?
Again, I think what you've heard is we plan on not doing major reevaluation, but regular reassessments to make sure that we don't get out of balance, that we maintain a tax roll residentially and commercially that is fair and equitable.
So would that be an annual process then, or a continual process of reassessing?
We have to look at that. It could be an annual process. It could be every 2 years. So
Cities are large. At the size of our municipality, it would have to be done on a cycle. Obviously, portions of the city, we were on a 6-year cycle. Previously, 15% of the city was reassessed every year. We'll be evaluating that. Obviously, it takes resources, staff. We'll be getting into that in future. As far as the project, the reevaluation is done. The updated inventory is done. The collection of all the data and verification is done. So that is where the real heart of these types of reevaluation projects come from, rather than a simple reassessment by analyzing sales comparisons.